if you are wondering why Google is finally catching the AI race, then the reason is much deeper than you think. It's not about Google wasn't capable. Matter of fact, Google was always ahead of everyone. Even the ChatGPT produced by OpenAI uses the foundational model deployed by the Google. But what slowed down the Google progress? To understand that, first we need to start to understand what is the base of ChatGPT, like what is the underlying architecture, and that is the deep learning architecture called Transformer that is deployed by Google DeepMind back in 2017. And the architecture of the Transformer model is basically an encoder and decoder. Now, I don't want to explain you the actual architecture in the program form, but we will see now a layman term, okay? So our transformer architecture is basically you train a two guy, okay? Two guy. So this will understand in code or understand your input, whatever you want to say, and this guy will speak out, so decode or output. So basically we are teaching two guy about how it should behave in the future. So when we train this architecture, first when we say I am, now um, that's right. So what should be next? So in this architecture, we feed this into the encoder. Then encoder will try to make sense like what this input meant and what it should produce output. So it will store in some kind of vector matrix, right? So this will just represent your input. And now encoder will talk to the decoder. It will just produce some form of a vector input, and decoder will understand that and produce the output. I am man, right? So encoder and decoder is basically we are training two guys. One is trying to understand the input, and decoder is trying to justify the output. So there is one bigger problem, or at least that's what ChatGPT research found out. I mean, OpenAI research found out. So this architecture is super good, but it's limited to some of the tasks like paraphrasing, summarizing, or language translation. And that's what we have been seeing in the Google. The paraphrasing, summarizing, and everything was already before ChatGPT. But what made ChatGPT more interesting? Yeah, they did something crazy. What they did was, okay, you know what? We should only need the decoder that just speak. We don't want the middleman to understand what we wanna say. So what they did was completely take out the encoder. Now it is completely based on decode only model. So now what happened is, now when we give this word I am, now decoder will directly produce output. And this architecture was bringing life in the AI. So before that, it was just a predictable machine learning algorithm. But what we found out is when we scale the chat GPT from 1, 2, and 3, it started to reason. Yeah. And when it reason, now it can behave in different way. It will try to make sense of what is being told. Now at this point you might have so many questions, like, I mean, there's no any machine learning I have thought about, or there's no any valuable information. So I will try to explain this now programmatically. So now at this point you have understand is encode and decode model. So now I will try to bring up the actual architecture. So okay, so what this model was doing is, first we will take a language translation task. Okay, so when we train this model, when we give what is your name, right, and what this does is it will encode your input into a vector form that it represents. Now what happens is it will store in a state like I told before, and it will ask the decoder, now you are supposed to translate it. Then the decoder will translate it into como se llamas. So we only train transformer model like this for a specific task. So if this model was trained for the translation, now we cannot expect that what is your name to be some random input, like I am not a person. Like if you ask your ChatGPT what is your name, then it will say I'm not a person, I'm a ChatGPT. So it won't work like that. Okay, so this is the form of translation model. Now let's look at what if we train this model for summarization. So if we had trained this model in a summarization, then if we give a big chunk of information like your essay, right, or a book of Wikipedia that you want to do your assignment, right? So if you give this to the encoder, then encoder is going to represent in the same way. It just represent. Now it will tell the decoder to produce the output, and then a decoder will produce the output what it thinks is good from the given encoder information. And at this point it's good, but now where it was failing is in your general purpose, we say like a general language task. So now what happens is, if we give some assay, like, okay, if we train it for general purpose at task, then the boy name is Jack, he lives in Florida, he has a big house, the girl name is Kathy, she is from Arkansas, and she have small house. Now tell me what is the size of house of girl, right? So when we give tasks like this, now what happens is the encoder will again represent your information in the middle. And now since we have trained this into producing the, we are asking to produce the answer for this. Now from this unreliable encoder and decoder, it will forget the information that the big house belongs to the Jack and not to the Oh wait, so we will ask for the boy house. Okay, so boy house, boy context was before then the girl. So if we ask for the size of the house, now the girl small house um will be scoring more, and the um output of this input or your question is the the size of house or boy house is small. So this is how encoder and decoder model was failing. And if you were the early user of the Google first I mean the general purpose AI called Bard, like me, then you would have seen that Google was failing simple mathematical task because the encoder couldn't represent everything what you want to say in the input, and as the input grows, now it will start to forget what the actual context is going on, or even let's say the overall output quality is going to drop out. But here is the catch. So why wasn't Google giving up on this architecture? Simple math. The one in the lead, probably Demis Hassabis or whoever was in charge of the AI model, they might be betting on this architecture to be more outperforming as it scales. Now, at this point, ChatGPT was already taking the world, and it was actually threatening the Google to replace its source. So at this point, they had to give up on their encoder and decoder architecture. This comes down to the culture of Google. They are more into research and development. However, startup like OpenAI, they are more like see what works right now. So that's the major difference. It wasn't that Google didn't had any brilliant scientists like OpenAI. They were more into experimenting. And matter of fact, I saw the podcast of Demis and Hannah Fry, and their Demis very articulately said that. I mean, the AI in this current form might be still too early to release in the world. I don't mean to say that it's um yeah, we're gonna cut this. I forget. I mean, I cannot explain my thoughts. Okay, anyway, let's get back to the how ChatGPT model works. So now, as I said before, ChatGPT is only decoder. So um now, okay, wait, I need this. So the decoder only model is super efficient because now we don't have the intermediate that will that is transcribing and representing your information. So whatever it says will be directly feed into decoder model. So this will help to understand the decoder, the actual full meaning context. It means, let's say, if there was encoder and decoder, then encoder might be representing it in wrong way, but now we only have decoder, then it is going to simply produce that it's a boy. I mean, right now I just trying to wrap this up since I already explained the encoder and decoder full architecture properly. I don't think I need to um, super explain on this decoder on the model. You understand, right? You didn't? Fuck you.